Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. It's a busy time, even though obviously the Bruins are not in action. They were back at practice on Tuesday. We're recording this after practice. We're recording this at night. We rarely do night podcasts, and I feel bad for fans of our show because typically it comes out on Monday. No Monday because there were two Four Nations games on that day, and then all comes out Tuesday. We're doing it late Tuesday, so we apologize for a little bit of the inconvenience, but it's a weird week, so bear with us. Big news happened Monday into Tuesday. So Monday, it's announced that Charlie McAvoy is out of the U.S.-Sweden game. And then your colleague Jim McBride breaks that, excuse me.
He's got a cough.
Maybe I need to go to Mass General. Jim McBride breaks that Charlie McAvoy had to be taken to Mass General. And then the Bruins came out with a statement Tuesday morning. Charlie was admitted to Mass Gen on Monday to undergo testing related to an upper body injury sustained during the Four Nations face-off and is currently being evaluated by Boston Bruins head team physician Dr. Peter Asness. He will not play for Team USA in the Four Nations face-off championship game on Thursday at the Garden. The Boston Bruins will provide further updates on his condition and status as soon as they become available. So, it's got everybody asking. First of all, we send our best to Charlie McAvoy. That's first and foremost. Hopefully he's speedy recovery. It's got everybody going, what's the deal? What's the deal with Four Nations? You got Alex Petraglia, not Petraglia, Shea Theodore could be out for the season. Matt the Kachucks are dealing with things. That's not even to mention the players we don't know about who are maybe dealing with things from these past couple games. And people are wondering, is the Four Nations worth it? If guys are going to get injured like this, is it worth it to have such a tournament with injury risk? You know what my answer is, Connor? Yes, it is worth it. It is worth it. Now, I'm not rooting for injuries. That's not my point. That's not what I'm saying. Take that, don't put those words in my mouth. But to the people who are like, Four Nations should end because could it impact the NHL season? I get it. Trust me, I get it. And I get it. There's not, you're not really technically playing for any, you're trying to win the tournament, obviously, but it's not the Olympics. I get that. It's not the World Cup. I get that. But look how much the game has grown in the past week. Look how entertaining these games have been. And look at what it's setting the stage for of more international competition. Players want to play for their country. If Charlie McAvoy wants to go balls to the wall to try and beat Canada, which he did, hitting everything that moved,
yes,
changing the game, if that's what matters, then I'm fine with that. Now, he could have easily not gotten hurt, or he could have easily gotten hurt, not saying the exact same injury, we don't know yet. Could have got hurt in an NHL game in 2 weeks. I'm fine with the international stuff. I'm fine with Four Nations. Alex Petraglia didn't want to get hurt for the stretch run. So he said, I'm sitting out. That's his decision. That's fine. But these guys want to be here. They wanted to go balls to the wall. They did. And some guys have injuries. I don't mean to make light of it or anything, but I don't agree with end Four Nations going forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hockey, right, Evan? And I think you look at just what this tournament has meant to hockey, to fans, to casual fans. I think it was John Koopa, might have been Monday or maybe it was Sunday, I'm not sure, but he said that Four Nations is the most important thing to happen to the NHL in a decade, in terms of obviously what it's meant in terms of growing the game, getting just casual fans talking about it. I mean, I was driving up to beautiful Saugus today, and I was listening to sports radio. Everyone was talking about the Four Nations, not just, obviously the Bruins angle with McAvoy, but just how fun those games were, how exciting it was, how much, rooting interest there is. And it does feel like even to casual fans, people have bought into this tournament. So
one of my roommates who was not into hockey at all is every day texting me about it. I'll go downstairs. He'll be like, tonight, he's like, what are we going to do without Four Nations on tonight? Yeah. And he's asking me questions about hockey. That's how you get fans in. It's not a Lightning Panthers game or even a Bruins and Canucks game. It's US Canada. It's Four Nations.
Yeah, so I think when you look at the growth and the spotlight that has been put on the NHL because of this tournament, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But,
Oh God, no.
but
No
yeah, I
way.
mean, I think you look at the talk of like, is it worth it if players are going to get hurt? Like as you said, it's hockey. I mean, Patrice Bergeron was injured in a meaningless regular season game up in Montreal right before the playoffs 2 years
What
ago,
year was
right?
that? I
And
forget.
yeah,
What year?
22,
What year was
23, I
that?
think. So I mean, and these things just happen. Like, Hampus Lindholm probably would have been on Team Sweden if he didn't block a shot in a regular season game against a pretty crappy Blues team on the road. Like, again, these things happen. It's unfortunate when you look at, I'm sure probably Vegas is kicking itself even more because like they're looking at a pretty deep run and Shea Theodore's such an impactful player for them. So that sucks. But regardless of where the Bruins are in terms of the playoffs, and obviously the most important thing for McAvoy is to get healthy. You hope he's okay with whatever he has, and you don't want him to rush back from whatever he's dealing with. It'd be great if they're able to get him back, but we have no idea what exactly that timeline is. But regardless of whether this is a week-long thing for him, if this is a season-ending thing, if it's just a minor setback that just needed to be corrected, I think Sportsnet mentioned that he was dealing with an infection, which is pretty scary stuff. So you just hope
Yeah,
that
it's
it's
not
not
good.
anything too major for him. But I think regardless of what McAvoy's status is this year, regardless of where the Bruins are in the playoff picture, whether they, if this was a few years ago and he was hurt, that'd be pretty rough. But I don't think you can view just how passionate and engaged these players are to expect them to take it easy when you finally have best on best competition, nor should they. Like, I think half the reason why, like, look, just think of where we all were like a week ago before the Four Nations started. And there's people who I think were justified of being like, all right, well, the NHL does All-Star Weekend and these gimmicky things. And like, how many times have we seen this? Like, it's not the Olympics. It's not anything like that. Like, how much are these players really going to buy in? Players showed up right away and showed why fans should invest in the product of what the Four Nations is. So I'm not going to begrudge McAvoy or any player who's been waiting for this opportunity to play their heart out and to play at such a high level. And it might lead to you being hurt, and that sucks. Like, it's not ideal, but it's hockey, right? Like, these are things that you accept every time you play the game, whether it's an international tournament game in February, a preseason game in September, or a game in the Stanley Cup final in June, right? Like, this is part of what the game is. And regardless of who's banged up, who's going to be playing on Thursday at the Garden, it's just kind of the way it is. So I don't think there needs to be any second guessing in terms of player participation or anything like this, because I think that same passion and enthusiasm is why you've got everyone talking about this tournament right now across the sports world.
Completely. And as I said, if you're on a team that's in first place, when they do this again in 2 years, and let's say the Bruins are in first place and Charlie McAvoy is in the same position, and he says, you know what, I think I have a legit shot at a cup this year. I'm going to sit out. That's his decision. That's fine. They'll find someone to replace him on the U.S. team. And like, the ratings are too high. The revenue is too high for the league to be like, no, we're not doing this ever again. Like, we really need guys to not get injured. It's hockey. It is hockey, as you said. And I think that, like, the idea that this isn't worth it, and maybe Bruins fans would be outraged if the Bruins were really in like a Stanley Cup dead heat, like you're going for the cup. If this is as you said, 2 years ago when you had that best team ever, maybe people are pissed. But I don't know, man. The product's been so good. That's the other thing. Like, this has been phenomenal hockey. Phenomenal. I mean, this is what happens when you take the best players and they all try their absolute hardest. This is what you get. It's a phenomenal product. And like, even like, obviously US Canada is like top of the, cream of the crop for a hockey game to watch. And we'll get into Thursday's game in a second. But even like Sweden, Canada, US, Finland, like, it's just good. Finland, Canada the other day, like, it's just fun and they care. And for a guy like McAvoy, who has not participated in an international showcase since World Juniors in what year? Like 2015, 16? I mean, it's been a long time.
15 and 16 maybe, right? I forget what year he won gold, but a long time ago.
Long time ago. Like, these guys are itching itching to play Canada and to play other countries, and they have. So I'm completely fine with it. Obviously, hope Charlie McAvoy gets better. But I did hear. So I heard like Toucher and Rich, not Toucher and Rich, Toucher and Hardy on Tuesday morning saying, "Oh, I think it's time the Four Nations is done." I don't know. I disagree. I completely disagree. I think this is too good to give it up. Something else that's always great, no matter what, it's our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long over at Prize Picks because you're going to want to hit the ice this hockey season with Prize Picks. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And again, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Now, when it comes to Four Nations, because you're going to want to make Thursday night's game even more fun. You're already nervous, but you want to make it more fun. You want to be more engaged. Let's see what they got. Brady Tkachuk, shots on goal at 2.5. Cale Makar, 2 shots on goal. Connor McDavid, 2.5. There's some good ones here. You can do goalie saves, shots on goal, points. I didn't have to open the app to tell you that, but I did anyway. So you want to get out on the action, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use code CLNS, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run your game over at Prize Picks. Here's a fun one. Mike Sullivan's been the head coach of Team USA for this event, and he's been in Boston. I assume he's now met his new grandson. I would assume that he's made the trip to do that. He is also Charlie McAvoy's father-in-law. He coached here in Boston at the start of his career. He's been saying some nice things about Boston. Is there any chance that we're potentially looking at the next Bruins head coach?
I mean, you look at his profile, right, as a guy who was one before from the Boston area, went to a Boston area school. As a player, you'd be like, yeah, that's exactly the Bruins should target. No, I mean, I think you look at it all depends on what Pittsburgh plans on doing, because I have no idea how to read what exactly the situation is with that team. It feels like even with like Dubas and that kind of new management team in place there, and the fact they've got a new ownership group, it does feel like Mike Sullivan has a lot of power within that organization, justifiably so after winning a couple of cups there with them. I think recently, was it a year or two ago, he signed an extension. Again, like, do they want to uproot things? I feel like that's a team where if you already have Crosby and these guys committing to the fact that like he just wants to stay there, I wonder if they just try to keep on retooling, even if it's probably not the best decision, and they keep kind of the gang together for as long as Crosby's there. Like, that might lead to disaster. And I think if there's one thing I've noticed from watching Crosby in this Four Nations thing, it is a shame he's going to end his career playing for this like bum roster that they've got there that I don't think is going to be a quick fix. But that's the thing. If Mike Sullivan is on the market this year, Bruins make a whole lot of sense in terms of a guy that is from the area, that is a proven winner, a guy that has done it with a Pittsburgh team that obviously had star talent, but also incorporated a lot of new faces while he was there. They've had some young guys that stepped into roles when he first got there as well. The prospect pipeline has been pretty barren since then, but I think you look at his reputation both in the NHL, in Team USA, in those ranks, everything like that makes plenty of sense. Like, if you're looking for, instead of, trying to find the next, up and coming coach, right? Like, trying to find the next Spencer Carberry or Warsofsky or someone like that. If you're trying to just add someone that has that pedigree without, maybe being too much of a authoritarian, or, too, like, you can lean the other way and look at like, someone like Tortorella, if he was out there, which I don't know if he's going to be there. That is like going just like the far one side, right? In
Scorched
terms of
earth.
what you're looking for. But like as opposed to maybe other veteran coaches like that, like I think Sullivan, has that winning pedigree with him. So it all depends, I think, on just what Pittsburgh is going to do. And I could tell you what exactly their plans are. I could give you my opinion of what they should do, but I don't know if they're going to do what they probably should have done a couple of years ago. And if Crosby's like, no, I'm good, I'm staying here, all the power to him. It means he's probably going to be on the outside looking into the playoffs the last couple of years of his career, which really, really sucks because, man, he is still really freaking good at hockey.
He can still play. He can still freaking play. I mean, they need a rebuild. That's what that organization needs. Obviously, Sullivan makes a lot of sense here. I don't think anyone would dispute that. He's, since his last time here, he's certainly, he's won a lot. He's become one of the best coaches in the league. A guy that you do want on your staff. What I would say, though, is don't just get him because he's familiar. Don't just get him because he makes a lot of sense. Look at other guys too. We'll get into this deeper in the in the off season or as the season goes along if the Bruins do decide to part ways with Joe Sacco at the end of the year. But do a search. Like try to you mentioned the Spencer Carberry or the Ryan Warsofsky thing. Like if you want to go that route, go that route. Try to find the next up and comer. Try to find the next guy. Sullivan does make a lot of sense though. He does. Now, I do wonder, there is the father-in-law element of it, which, again, you can put to the side, but it's still a thing. You still got to navigate that. I know, didn't Charlie McAvoy kind of want that on the DL for a while?
What about that? Just like the family ties there? Or?
Yeah, I vaguely remember him or someone not being pumped that it was mentioned on a broadcast. I don't know.
Sure
Maybe I'm wrong.
Anything airing out, family business, stuff like that. And that feels all but inevitable that will eventually, but I wouldn't have fault anyone for just wanting to keep some of that stuff in house.
Yeah. But
it is now very much part of the discourse now. Yeah. It's like it's part of the group with like did you know that Matt Grzelcyk's dad works at TD Garden? Like it's now, I feel like it's gonna get mentioned every single time that the Bruins play the Penguins, or if Mike Sullivan ends up being the coach of the Bruins down the road, by God, every national broadcast, like the producers are like, let me tell you, let me spin you a little anecdote that can take up 15 seconds of your time. You guys may not know this, but you know that's going to be the case. So.
Or if the Bruins ever make the cup, they'll have like Charlie, his wife, and Mike Sullivan sit down and do three-person interview, and they'll all, what's it like? That'll be great.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll love that.
God help them.
God help them all. I do think it's interesting though if this is potentially the next head coach of the Bruins. But again, as you said, it depends what Pittsburgh decides to do. We'll get into more coaching stuff as the season goes on. We need off-season topics if this team doesn't make the playoffs. So that will certainly be one of them. U.S. Canada Thursday night. How excited are you? What are you feeling? Where's your finger on this pulse?
I mean, it's going to be, I think, an electric atmosphere. Even that game, USA Sweden on Monday. Even though it, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, didn't mean all that much in terms of the tournament. The crowd was into it. Todd and Gili killed it with the national anthem. The crowd was going bonkers the entire game, even if it all was condensed in that first 20 minutes, more or less, and you had injuries, stuff like that. In terms of the spectacle and a celebration of what this tournament is, I can't think of anything better than Thursday. I feel like it's going to be, regardless of the result, a game that everyone's going to remember in terms of the excitement, anticipation, and the buildup. I feel like a lot of people are going to be tuning in for it. As for expectations, I, honest to God, couldn't tell you what to expect. I think it all depends on if the Americans can, mimic what they did that last game against Canada, which is not try to go toe-to-toe with them offensively because you're going to lose that battle. But if you can be that defensively responsible, that, on top of their star players, have active sticks, every single time it felt like a McDavid or McKinnon was entering the zone. They had zero time and space to do anything. And that was a credit to every single guy on the ice there for really buying in defensively and really not letting one slip up get past them, because all it takes is one miscue for, again, as you saw with Charlie McAvoy, who had a fantastic game on Saturday against Canada. One slip up, I guess, if you want to call it, or you could just call it Connor McDavid being Connor McDavid and making a lot
McDavid
of unbelievable guys look dumb in a split second. But, USA has shown they can do that they can stick to that game plan. They, have that physical element that I think should really stand out in this game. It also just comes down to injuries, which sucks that might be the case. Like, how are the Tkachuk brothers going to be in terms of, are they going to be 100%? Maybe not, but does that limit their effectiveness or their ability to be physical and compete? How is Austin Matthews going to do? What does Team USA do with their D-core now without McAvoy, who I think, as much as it's been kind of an up and down year for him and with the Bruins, you see his value on a team like that where he can just be a force. And, kind of what we've seen during some of his best play in the playoffs for the Bruins, where sometimes it's not a highlight reel goal or anything. It's like a momentum changing hit that he delivers that gets the team locked in. And we've seen that with the Bruins in the past. And I think Brady Tkachuk credited that hit that he delivered against McDavid as what kind of sparked the team. Because it was 30 seconds later, Gensel scored for Team USA. Yep. So you do miss that kind of punishing presence back there that McAvoy can provide. I don't know what they're going to do, whether it's Quinn Hughes is coming in. Sullivan said that he's coming in, but he's still in Vancouver as of Tuesday night. So
I saw that.
I don't know what exactly is going on there. I don't know if a guy is going to somehow get sick. I don't know if they're going to give Jake Sanderson, just give him 48 cheeseburgers the night before.
Come on, you can do it. You can eat it. Yeah, there you go.
Rumbling. They're going to be hey, Jake, we need you to go get us coffee over at Dunkin' on Causeway. I know there's a big sheet of ice. We need 28 coffees. You got you by yourself. Don't I don't know if they're doing that and seeing if he's going to get banged up, which I feel bad because Sanderson's been the butt of the joke and actually thought he was really good on Monday against Sweden. Was really moving his feet really well.
I think he's phenomenal. Incredible skater.
But whether it's, obviously the loss of McAvoy is going to be huge, but also if Quinn Hughes isn't available and you see how much of a game changer he can be on the power play, which has kind of not been that great for the Americans in this tournament so far. I think it all comes down to, we know what Canada can do. We know their skill level. We know their talent. It's all about what the Americans do to try to limit that and whether they can all buy in and try to slow them down. Because if it's a 6-5 game, I feel like that's exactly how Canada wants to play because they know they can outscore you in those situations. If the Americans can play disciplined, play a really layered strategy against Canada's top players, and you win 3-2, something like that, you feel good. It's just the injuries, I think, is where the concern is for the Americans going into this game, which sucks it gets to that. But as we said earlier, injuries are part of hockey. Shit happens.
Hockey, you're right. Shit does happen. I have a couple thoughts. Canada in general, outside of McKinnon, Makar, McDavid, and Crosby, kind of a meh Team Canada. Hate to say it. Outside of those,
Braden Point hat trick incoming.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Jordan Bennington 55 save game incoming.
We've seen that story before. So
we have. I just they're just kind of meh outside of those guys. I mean, those are four legit top of their field guys. But I was watching them against the US the other night. I was watching them against Finland the other, on Monday. And it's, they're really good, obviously. I'm just saying relative to other Team Canadas, they're fine. They're not the best. I never knew how fun it was to root for the Tkachuks. Never knew it. It is fun being on their side. And I texted you this after that game against Canada. They had the perfect start. Now, we make fun of toughness all the time. We all, we need more toughness, this and that. Those 3 fights in 9 seconds, they won. I mean, they might have won one of those fights. Parayko certainly beat JT Miller, who accidentally punched his own helmet
himself
off.
In the face.
Yeah. It was great. And, Matthew Tkachuk and Brandon Hagel, sort of a draw. It completely set the tone for that game because Canada should have dominated those first 10 minutes. The focus should have been they're at home. First US-Canada game in a long time at the professional level. Canada's home. They're going to come out firing. Weather the storm if you're the US. And they were the storm. The U.S. completely flipped the tide and said, even though Canada scored first, the U.S. still set a tone with those 3 fights of we're not going to get pushed around. We're going to play the way we want to play. And they did. And, when you translate that to the NHL, you can't say, oh, go get the Kachucks, go get JT Miller, which they could have went out and got JT Miller. But those are the kinds of guys you want in the playoffs. I'm not saying you fight every game like that, but guys who are going to take it to you. Guys who, no matter, even if they're in enemy territory, in a game like with that magnitude, are still going to bring it the way they did. So it was that was the perfect start. And by God, did they play incredible defense that whole game. They were so good at defending the front of their own net, defending the slot. Jacob Slavin is a freaking beast. Brock Faber is a beast. McAvoy played really well last week as well. Obviously, he's not there, and he's gone for Thursday. But just defense and their ability to pressure guys as they enter the zone, which is also defense, I think just was so superior. And they were so much better on D than Canada was, personnel-wise, stylistically. So I just, if they can do that again, they should win. I do get worried, though, Connor, when you have 2 high-end teams like this playing each other in a 5-day span, it's hard to beat them twice. It is hard to beat them twice.
That Binnington guy is pretty good in a winner-take-all game at the Garden. So
yeah, that's right.
That.
Well, that was his last winner-take-all game.
Yes.
He was very into the winner-take-all games at the
Yes.
Garden. But it should be fun. It should be a great game. I'm very excited for it. And that's been the fun of this. Just like taking it all in and enjoying this. I have not been there covering them. I've been at home watching them. And it has been one of the best hockey watching experiences I've had in a long time. So it has been a pleasure to watch. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, we're going to have you covered every step of the way this Bruin season, hockey season, what have you, whether it's the Four Nations face-off or when the Bruins return to the ice on Saturday. We'll have you covered every step of the way over at Boston.com. And the Boston Globe, rather. I always got caught up there. I almost said Boston.com and Boston.com. But read my stuff on both of those sites. They're both great. Highly recommend them. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners. Have a great rest of your week.